Wish you knew more about the presidential candidates so that you didn't have to ask someone else who you should vote for? Don't worry, I got you. In this video, we're going to be discussing Trump versus Biden. Hey friends, welcome to Adulting with Esther, where we talk about the things that you don't learn in school. I'm Esther, and today we're going to be talking about Biden versus Trump, Domestic Policy Edition. If you're new here, welcome to my home. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't hit it before. This is a 10-part series in which I'll cover all of these issues. You'll be able to find those videos up here in the corner as well as down in the description below. Today we'll be talking about 8 domestic policy issues, and make sure you stick around to the end where I'll be sharing with you the 3 on which Biden and Trump have the same stance. Should the District of Columbia be given statehood? Washington, D.C. is under the jurisdiction of the United States, and it has 2 senators like all the other 50 states do, as well as 1 representative in Congress. But that 1 representative in Congress can't vote on legislation. In D.C., there's 702,000 residents that actually pay the highest taxes per capita out of everybody in the United States. But these citizens can't vote because they aren't part of a state. The biggest issue here is that these people deserve to be treated like everyone else. They pay taxes too, and America has 50 states. DC was never considered to be a state. The Senate voted to pass this bill and make DC a state on June 26, 2020. But the Senate's probably going to ignore it because President Trump has already said that he's going to veto it if it passes. So what are their stances? Biden is pro. He says he's considered it a state anyway for the past 28 years. Donald Trump, con. Why does he say that? He doesn't want more Democrats in office. In his quote, he says, "Why? So we can have 2 more Democratic senators and 5 more congressmen? No thank you, that'll never happen." Should the federal government adopt net neutrality rules? Obama established these rules, but in 2018, January, they were repealed. What did it do? It required all internet service providers to treat all internet users and all internet traffic equally. What are the big ideas about this? The people who say go for it think that treating all internet users the same is a right of free speech. People that are against it believe that it's too much government regulation of the internet. So what are their stances? Biden's? It's not clear. He hasn't said anything about it. Trump? Con. Why? He's hoping it'll lead to big things like 5G. Should public sector employees have the right to unionize? If you're not familiar with what unions are, I'm sure you all saw the strikes that happened all the time in our nation with teachers. They have unions that represent them as individuals. When administrators and other professionals within education try to say things that are against teachers' rights, instead of teachers individually having to fight for their rights, the union stands up for them and creates solidarity within the group of people. In 1935, Franklin D. Roosevelt passed an act that allowed private sector employees to unionize. However, it didn't talk about public sector employees at all. Currently, about 21 million government employees don't have any federal regulation about whether or not they are or are not allowed to unionize. What are our candidate stances? Biden is pro and Trump is con. Biden believes by giving federal employees the right to unionize, it will allow them to fight for better working conditions, equitable wages, and all the other things that humans deserve. He also discusses how the federal government is very disproportionately employed by women of people of color. By taking away their right to unionize means we'll be proponing, you guys know this. Trump's stance on this? I'm going to give you a quote. "The Department of Defense requires maximum flexibility to respond to the threats to carry out its mission of protecting American people. This flexibility requires that military and civilian leadership manage the organizations. Collective bargaining is incompatible with these organizations' missions." Essentially, he's concerned that the collective bargaining might put our country at risk because it takes too long to argue over people's rights and working conditions. Should Puerto Rico be given statehood? Puerto Rico's been a territory since 1898. There's 3.4 million people who live on that island who can't vote or elect a voting member of Congress. Those Puerto Rican residents don't pay American federal taxes, but they do pay Social Security and Medicare. What are our stances? Biden? Not clear. Trump? Con. His reasoning? He thinks their mayor is pretty Saudi, and if you have a Saudi mayor like that, he doesn't want you to be an American statehood. Joe Biden acknowledges that it's a tricky situation, and he's willing to listen to new perspectives, and that Puerto Rico as a separate entity provides a lot of value to the United States. But his stance on whether or not it should be a state? We don't know. Should recreational marijuana be legal federally? Total sidebar. There's a show on Netflix, this one right here, called The Business of Drugs. Really fascinating, and they talk about this more too. If you want to know more, check it out. If you've been keeping up with the times, in 2012, Colorado and Washington state legalized marijuana. It started out with medical and then it went to recreational. Now there's 11 states and Washington, D.C. that allow recreational marijuana use, including my city of Chicago. However, under federal law, it still remains illegal. Biden is con, Trump not clear. Biden's pretty honest when he says he feels like there's not enough information out there and that states should be allowed to choose this right on their own. Donald Trump says it's a very big decision and there's a lot going on, and right now they're letting the states make that choice. Again, check out this documentary on Netflix. It totally opened my mind and I think it will yours too. Okay, ready for the ones they agree on? I love this one. Should the federal government mandate paid family and medical leave for all Americans? Currently, only about 12% of private sector workers have access to paid family and medical leave under their employer. An analysis with the European Union actually found out the United States is the only nation, not like one of three, but the only nation without a national paid maternity leave policy. Can you believe that? United States, like, get with the times. What are their stances? Biden and Trump are both pro. Biden literally says the US needs to get their priorities straight, and he wants to give 12 weeks paid leave for all American employees. Trump says he's already passed a few laws that deal with the childcare tax and other things, and he wants this next step of the 12 weeks of paid leave for everyone to be what happened. Wow, that's crazy. Obviously, I'm in support of that. I mean, I'm a woman and maybe one day I'll have a kid. What do you guys think? Should every working American be entitled to 12 weeks of paid sick, medical, family, maternity leave? Let me know by writing yes or no down in the comments below. But what else do they agree on? Another juicy one. Should the federal government regulate social media websites for fake news and misinformation? According to an act that was posted in 1996, online platforms are not held liable for what their users post. This ranges from everything to nasty issues like child pornography, all the way to fake news about how gargling salt water will help you get rid of coronavirus. Biden and Trump are both pro. Biden clearly says he's never been a fan of Facebook and really, Mark Zuckerberg. He believes that by being more than just an internet company, allowing people to post whatever they want creates a bunch of false informations that are shared. He reiterates this by saying Facebook not taking ownership is totally irresponsible. We all know Donald Trump loves social media. He said in July of 2019 that there's been massive collusion between Democrats and online websites and social media, and it's disgusting. Sorry. Disgraceful. He said that the White House has created a new social media censorship tool, and this tool will report social media bias and discrimination. However, he wants his administration to continue working to be able to empower people's freedom of speech, but de-escalate the massive biases and false news that are being perpetuated on media platforms. Should the federal government provide universal childcare? Essentially what this is federally funded childcare for a low or no cost option for everyone that has a child, a lot like public school. Both Biden and Trump are against this. Biden says he's willing to go to bat for Americans and their children by providing an $8,000 child care credit. In 2018, Trump passed a law that actually increased the amount of child care funding for low-income families up to $8.1 million. He also says that the tax cuts that higher and middle income families are receiving is good enough. Basically, he says that if the government goes far enough to also pay for people's childcare, it's interfering too much, and how a family decides to balance work and childcare and development is a personal decision, one in which the government shouldn't interfere. Okay, wow, we made it through a lot of them. That was really juicy. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. Are you all for this whole social media regulation thing, or do you think that it takes away our rights of free speech? If you got value out of this video, don't forget to smash that like button and hit the subscribe button down below so you can get alerted when we post our next one. I'll see you in the next video.